taking a look at some of the prior games, and that 63-17 game in Columbia, you were there, caught a pass. And what are your thoughts about the rivalry as a player? What do you remember most as a player from this rivalry?
You know, the things I remember the most is I had two high school teammates that went to South Carolina. I was the Clemson guy, and there was a lot of trash talk, but a mutual respect. And obviously, you hated them on that week at the game, but at the end of the day, we were just guys on the field competing with each other. And I think I learned the most about the rivalry when I stepped away from the game, when I was done playing, going to work at Michelin, and just seeing, how much it meant, to the people of this state and how hard they pull for their schools, and gave me a greater appreciation as a player. Growing up in the state of South Carolina, you understand it, but I don't think you really understand it until you're done playing.
Is it important to have those bragging rights as a player when you went back home?
Oh, no question. My sister graduated from the University of South Carolina. My aunt graduated. So, there was a rough little spell there, but it's always good to have those bragging rights. And, I think I always took the higher road when I had the upper hand. But when we were on the losing end, trust me, they let me know about it.
Who were they rooting for this week?
Who are they rooting for this week? I don't know. I'm not talking to my sister this week, so.
She's string catch in that 63-17 game, almost got in the end.
And I tried to score, man.
How painful was that?
And when I was playing, I never cared about accolades and statistics, man. I just wanted to do everything I could to help my team win. But, to see the way that we came out in that game, and to watch Derek have one of my best friends have a couple touchdown catches early in the game, I was trying to score, but at the end of the day, as long as we won, that's all that mattered.
How much did you dislike South Carolina as a player, and how different is it from a coaching standpoint, the rivalry?
I think from a coaching standpoint, you get to know guys, and I know several of the guys on the staff, so there's a mutual respect. But when you're in rivalry week, we understand what it means to our players, to our community, to our university, to our state. So there is a little bit of hatred in terms of the rivalry. But at the end of the day, as a coach, you have respect for what Coach Muschamp is doing down there. But when we strap it up on Saturday, we're trying to win the football game.
Speaking of Coach Muschamp, what have you seen from their defense this season that's much different from the last couple of years?
They're getting better with every game. You can see those guys are settling in on what they're trying to do schematically. You see that they got some depth up front. The structure is a little bit different than last year, a little bit more aggressive at times. They're putting their guys in a position to be successful. So what you've seen as we studied them coming into this game so far is you see they're getting better. They're playing hard on defense. They got some energy, and they got some versatility too, because they can move some guys around. I think number 3 is playing a lot of spots for him. He's playing at a high level. You see number 8 flash as a defensive end. You see him move those linebackers around. So they're starting to feel more comfortable when you see them just playing loose, having fun, and getting after people. And they've done a really good job of limiting people getting into the end zone.
Obviously, the win played a factor in what happened Saturday night. But is that one of the cleanest performances from Deshaun and from the entire offense that you guys have had this year?
I thought it was a really clean game. If you look at it, we had, I think, four tackles for loss, and 2 of them came on screen games, only 2 in the running game, and I take credit for one of those. The one with Fuller, I probably put him in a bad position when I brought the speed motion. I brought some other guys into the box, and then they actually made a good adjustment on one of the outside runs and made a very, very difficult block for Tyrone for 2 TFLs, and we had 2 penalties. So overall, I thought it was a really, really clean game, and I think the biggest thing is when we can establish the run, it opens up everything else. It allows us to be balanced, and when we can run the football and throw it when we want to, it puts a lot of pressure on defenses.
After watching the film, what stood out to you as far as the offensive line, and who particularly graded really well?
I thought Jay Guillermo played really well. Mitch is consistent. He plays, Mitch high football every week at left tackle. You're not going to really notice him doing anything bad, but he's very, very consistent. Very pleased with Pollard. Thought Tyrone, with the exception of 1 or 2 plays, had a really, really good game. Taylor Hearn's physical, sets a tempo inside. But, in terms of the run game, just thought guys were finishing blocks, and they had a good understanding schematically of what they were going to try and do and adjust to the schemes that we were running. And just they came out ready to play. And hats off to those guys, because we challenged them all week about responding. Is it going to be a stepping stone, or is it going to be a stumbling block? And they chose for it to be a stepping stone and came out and had their best performance of the year.
Talking to Jay and even Wayne, it sounds like those guys took things a little personal after struggling to run the ball against Pittsburgh. Did you kind of sense that coming into Wayne?
I think they probably took it more personal because of the adversity of being in a situation they hadn't been in, losing the game, especially here at home. Your seniors, they don't know anything about losing a game in Death Valley. And so they had to respond to that. And then there was a lot of talk outside the building in terms of the run game. But, going into it, we knew that Pittsburgh was going to challenge us. There were a lot of called runs. And the way that we were going to adjust to it is if they load the box, then we're going to make them tackle us in space. And they didn't make the adjustment. And so, we pride ourselves on taking what's there. So I think for them, it was probably more personal personal. We didn't make it feel like they had to come out and do anything different in the run game other than be who we are. But I would say if it was personal, it was just the fact that they were coming off of a loss, something they didn't know, and they were challenged, and everyone was looking at them and how are they going to respond.
How different is it keeping guys focused, knowing that, usually this game ends and then there's a bowl game somewhere later in the month, but you've got another big game to play a week later. How do you keep everybody kind of dialed in, knowing that there's 2 big games 2 weeks in a row?
Right. This is one of our goals that we put on our goal board. We never come into the season with the goal being win the national championship. But we have our goals set up that if we hit all of our goals, we're going to be in position, potentially to play for it all. So this is just the next step. It's a rivalry game. We got a lot of guys from the state of South Carolina, a lot of guys from the state of Georgia that move into the state here at Clemson and understand what it's about. And Ben Boulware is not going to let them not know what this game means to him. So I think just the fact that it's a rivalry game, there's a lot on the line, and they understand that, for a while we were on the lower end of this, and we're trying to get it shift back in our perspective, and so they know all year how important this game is. So they're not looking ahead to the one next week, and that's just the focus that we have every week. Is just one game at a time. This is the biggest game, and they're just a team that's in our way trying to stop us from where we're going.
South Carolina is near the top of the SEC or leads and interceptions. What have you seen that they've done such a good job of getting some turnovers?
They do a good job of being able to rush the passer with 3 and drop 8 guys into coverage. They can mix their coverages up to confuse a quarterback. And then also you see them doing a good job of tipping balls. I've seen number 7 has at least 3 picks that I've seen on tape already where he's at a deflected ball. They're flying around on the back end. So the biggest thing is changing structure, dropping extra guys into coverage, and then whenever they have an opportunity, they're going to tip passes.
Just show them kind of left the door open for a possible return next year. You being a little extra nicer to it, make sure he gets an extra turkey this week or anything?
No, I'm being a little bit extra nice because I know how important this game is to him. But in terms of that's a conversation that he and Coach Sweeney will have. And I'm just focused on South Carolina, and I believe that he's focused on South Carolina. But anything, this is a big game for him. And this is really where he started his legend, is when he came back his freshman year after the injury and put on a display here in the Valley to really end the streak. So that's really what I'm focused on.
Tony, not your typical week in that classes will be out, so you get a little more time with the guys at the end of the week. That is, how important is that?
Oh, man, that's critical, because anytime you can get those guys, and I think sometimes we lose perspective of what these guys go through and how much strain and stress that they have on them outside of football. And anytime you're going to class, and I can speak for myself being an engineering major and trying to, this is the time of the year where all the exams are piling up. So anytime you can remove that away from them and let them hone in on football, especially in a game of this magnitude, any kind of extra time gives you an advantage.
This senior class is a chance to tie a overall wins record, home wins record this week. What kind of impact has that senior class made from a leadership standpoint this year?
When Coach Sweeney took over the program, he started with a vision. And he needed, a group of young men to believe in that vision. And so it started 8 years ago, and this senior group is just really carrying forward and building upon the foundation that he wanted to lay early on in the program. And this is an unbelievable group of players and talent-wise, but if you look at them, just the character of these young guys. I'll speak, personally on Wayne Gallman. Just the way that he comes into my meeting room every single day, he makes me a better person. So not only have the seniors impacted their peers, they've impacted the coaches just because of the way that they carry themselves. And look at Deshaun, just the character that he has, and Jordan Leggett, to see his growth, over the years. Jay Guillermo, a guy that a couple years ago we didn't know if he was going to play football again, and now he's the heart and soul of our offense. I know we talk about Artavis and Deshaun and Mike, but without Jay Guillermo, this offense doesn't go. And then Artavis, and a guy that's going to graduate in 3 years. Mike Williams comes back from a broken neck. Just the quality of character of these young men is what makes them special. And what they're doing is they're impacting the young players in Cornell Powell and Taven Feaster. They're teaching them that, yes, you're a great player, you're a great talent, but to win championships, character is what wins championships.
With red zone, they've kind of been a bit of a don't break defense, and you guys have maybe struggled some in the red zone. Is that kind of where the game could be decided this week?
Definitely. I think that if you look at them, they're very good against the pass. Their numbers may not be what you think in the run game, but they still present problems up front with the talent that they have. And our issues have been turnovers in the red zone. These last couple of weeks, we've converted on touchdowns when we gotten into the red zone. So I think it's going to come down to, third downs as always, and then being able to score points once we get into the red zone.
All set.
All right. Appreciate it, fellas.